Hey everyone, you're now listening to Cup of Queens with Paige and Saray, and we are so excited to talk with Dean McMurry, the Military Medium. That's right, we are interviewing our first ever male guest. As of 2022, we want to open our platform to all opportunities and those who champion and empower women. Dean has done this through his gift of mediumship since he had his first spiritual awakening years back.
Dean started out his journey serving in the military, which brought him overseas on several occasions, and the last of which awakened his psychic abilities and set him on a new path in life. We had so much fun talking with Dean about all of the opportunities his gift has led him to. So grab your cup and enjoy!
Hello!
Hi ladies, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So, Sari, it's kind of interesting when you reached out, my daughter, who you may probably remember, Bailey, with bass dance, and she was like, oh my God, you're going to be on Cup of Queens, shut up. Yeah, so, yeah, Bailey's my daughter. So, and then, obviously, you guys know Ruth.
Yes. Yeah.
But Kiara Bach, who you probably know, is my wife's goddaughter, and they're great friends of ours. Actually, they're coming Friday for Bailey's 16th birthday. So a lot of connections. So, and Paige, it's great to make your acquaintance as well.
Yeah, it's great to meet you too. It's funny. I was actually in Mexico last week with Taryn Finkston, who said that she has met you before, and I think that's awesome.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So a lot of different realtors and a lot of different folks as well. Yeah. So awesome.
We've been pumped for this interview. Ever since we talked about you, I was like, yes, this sounds so cool. So we're like, we normally come up with more questions, but Paige and I were like, I think we're so curious about everything that you do that they're just gonna naturally flow.
Well, and I was kind of like, checking everything out. Now, am I the first guy that you guys have had on the show?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yay!
Oh man, I feel so honored.
Yes,
we are so excited to have the first guy. Ray and I were just talking. We're like, we would love to start having men on the podcast that really celebrate and empower women too on the day. So this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. I'm really excited. So thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Okay, so let's dive in. Give us the background story of how you discovered this about yourself and took you on this career path. Crazy, right?
To even think. Going back about has it been 12 years now or so? And so I'm going to rewind the clock a little bit. So, growing up, I grew up in northern Minnesota, right on the Canadian border. And was not brought up in a spiritual household, very, very traditional. Wasn't Lutheran. We were Protestant, same difference, right? And just a very middle-class family, right? And then I went right into the military, served almost 15 years in the regular army, serving all around the world. And then after Afghanistan, I got out. I said, the heck with it. Because the military just wasn't working out for family life, like trying to settle down. And so I found out about the full-time Guard and Reserve program. And it came down between Minot, North Dakota, and Barrow, Alaska. So up in the Arctic Circle. Wow. And and even though I really wanted to get back to Alaska really bad, I served 3 years there as a paratrooper, and I absolutely loved it. But I was like, I don't know how that is for the dating scene, like like up in the Arctic Circle. It's probably kind of remote, not at this stage in life. So, I started off at Minot, and then I got stationed around the state, and then ended up in Carrington, where I met my now wife, right? And the age-old story of boy meets girl, and you fall in love and have kids and get married and all that great stuff. But this whole time, the reason I share that whole backstory about the military, and I wasn't into spiritual stuff. That wasn't me. I was the what you call the atypical guy. The craziest conversation I would have with my wife at the time might have been like, she might ask me, well, what kind of oils do you want me to diffuse? Like, I don't know, some of that orange smelling stuff, or, oh, it's Christmas time. I like that, the pine scent or whatever, but it wasn't about, hey, I think my chakra's off, or, I wouldn't have, and it wasn't until my last deployment. So I deployed a lot of people in the state remember when the Army National Guard deployed to Kosovo. It was one of the biggest deployments, I believe, since World War II. And we all deployed, came back, did a year. And of course, we had a daughter by that time. And my daughter Bailey was very young. And she, it was kind of an adjustment, because that's first deployment that I now had a family, right? Sure. And my wife, came home for a couple of weeks and everything. Well, here we found out that she was pregnant. And, oh, yeah, kind of the oops. And here I was gone again for the majority of the pregnancy. And by the time, when I got back, there was very little time. And once my son Wyatt was born, it was kind of like I would call it almost like a spiritual switch. It was like Wyatt was born in November, and it wasn't long after that I call it all holy hell started breaking loose. And it was clocks and pictures started flying off the wall, and I was like, holy crap, like, what's going on? And here, you think of somebody that thinks very in black and white terms, right? So, you see the pictures behind me or beside me, I can, when something would fall off the wall or watch it like being thrown or whatever, I was trying to put logic to it, like, I didn't use a drywall anchor, or didn't have the nail all the way in or something. And there was some things, quite honestly, that defied logic. Like, there was no reason why it came off. One of those where you have to pick it up and, jimmy it to get it off, and things going flying absolutely crazy. And, and what was kind of interesting is when I was overseas, my wife confided in me that she had a local psychic in the local area come over and douse the house. She wasn't sure what I would say. And I kind of jokingly referred to her as the voodoo chick. And that was my joke. That's how I dealt with her, right? Joke about everything. And I said, whatever, you and your voodoo chick friends, whatever, as long as, no dead chickens hanging from the curtains. Right. Yeah. And, quite honestly, that was the first words out of my mouth when all this craziness was happening. Get the voodoo chick on the phone. There's some weird blankety blank going on. Like, I want answers. Like, who do you call? And that's the thing that I struggle with. Like, I know who to take my car to if you're having engine problems, know who to call if you're having issues with a house or whatever. But who, it's like, who do you call? Ghostbusters, right? And it's like, but how do I know that it's something spirits, right? And who do you call? It's not, I have for years looked in the yellow pages. They, every once in a while they'll send them out or a directory, but it was, I was like, there is no, I never found one. And so when I knew of that lady, I said, get the voodoo chick on the phone. Yeah. And so what was interesting is she did come over and she started communicating with my deceased grandfather. And I wasn't in a mind space of receiving a message at that point. I just thought that I was very naive. I was very ignorant on how things worked. I just thought somebody came in and they basically, sprinkled some dust or something, and it all went back to normal. I really didn't know, what was going on. And it wasn't the case. And she came in and started, bringing forward messages from my deceased grandfather. And I was thinking in my mind, like, no disrespect to my grandpa, because, he was a hero of mine. He was a World War I veteran. He was, did a lot of cool stuff. And, but I was like, and I asked her, I was like, well, where was he after? And I'm going down all of my deployments, where was he after Bosnia? Where was he after, Afghanistan? Where was he after, Thailand? All these things, right? Korea and everything. And she said, I don't know, but I can tell you he's here now. And I was like, and I wasn't, again, I want to really reiterate this because it was huge. It wasn't who was stepping forward. Mm-hmm. It was his message. And I was so caught up, and I see this in clients now, but I was so caught up in like, why the hell's grandpa stepping forward? Like, we weren't super close. Like, yeah, we're close, but not like, hey, buddies, right? And I was like, so I was so caught up in that. And it was interesting. Well, fast forward a couple weeks after her visit, nothing changed. Actually, things got more active in the home. And I thought, oh God, nothing's going away. And, my wife, I was trying to ignore it. I thought, there's, what are we going to do with this? And my wife, quite literally, because here we had a newborn and about, I don't know, Bailey was probably 4 or 5 years old at the time. And, here we are trying to deal with this. And when I was trying to ignore it, the spiritual activity was actually affecting the kids. And I don't want to say like in a nasty way, but their kids are so sensitive to spiritual energies or spirits, right? And so what happens? They wake up like, mommy, daddy, I have a nightmare, or even the creepier, you hear a little girl's voice saying, daddy, there's a man in my room. Yeah. Try that at 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh. Right. And that's happened a couple times. But my wife looks at me and just goes, figure this out. Like, you make it stop. And I was like, what do I do? Yeah. And well, lo and behold, my grandmother came to visit me. Now, most people, they think, well, Dean, what's the big deal? Your grandma, I visited my grandma maybe last week. No, my grandma died back in the 80s. And and that whole story was as I was washing baby bottles and dishes around midnight, and everybody else was in bed, and my back was towards the way our old house was. It was kind of open to the living room. And I just had a creeped out feeling, like every sense of me was telling me like there's something behind me. You think of the creepy movies, right? Oh. And of course you turn around expecting something, and there was nothing. I didn't see anything. It was a darkened living room. And I was like, whatever, right? You just try to put whatever, and kind of poo-poo it away. But there was like aspects of me that knew that my grandmother was with me. I just knew it. And I still remember it today because I was actually out loud arguing with myself, going, like, how do I know it's grandma? I don't know, it's grandma, right? So it was like two parts of me. And I think really, I was trying to probably comfort myself and try to like, hey, it's okay. It's this grandma, right? And then at some point, I just kind of, I just need to go to bed. I'm tired. It's probably just my imagination. And when I went to bed, I was just kind of laying in bed and on my side and just kind of had the sheet up a little bit. And I give you a little bit of context because in my mind, I knew grandma was there. So my mind was going, hey, grandma, like, how's it going? Because every time we have a loved one that we miss, there's going to be an aspect of us that want a yearning to connect again. It's part of our human nature because we love them, whether they're physically here or not, right? And we want to connect one more time. And so it was that little voice in my head going, hey, grandma, how you doing? Miss you, love you. Like, what have you been up to? And then my ego, I call my ego my drunk friend, because the drunk friend always has great advice. It's just crap. You don't take it, but just always has like, oh, you're just making this up, trying to come up with logic. And it's saying, you know what? If grandma is really here, she would prove it. She would just prove it beyond a shadow of doubt, and then you can't deny it. So, as soon as those thoughts left my head, it was immediate, like a snap of the fingers, that the room turned absolutely chilling to the bone, right? And remember, I was saying I was just laying there with like a sheet on me because my loving wife loves it hot in the bedroom. And it turned, quick, like you walked outside in the middle of December. And it was like, holy crap, like, who did I piss off? Like, you got my attention. And then I'm still laying there and I'm very much awake, but I have my eyes closed. And then again, it was my ego going, you know what? I'm just making this up. I'm just dreaming it. Why don't you touch me? If you touch me, there's nothing I can deny about that. And again, I remember this like yesterday. It was a gentle yet firm pressure that started at the top of my head and went all the way to the bottom of my feet. And quite literally, it was like somebody laying on top of me, and where I physically could feel myself being compressed or pressed into the mattress, and I could hear the springs. And so, it was almost like the 4-year-old little boy in me coming out like, holy crap, like freaked out, like, oh my God, I just, what the fifth seal to hell was this broke. Like, what am I doing? Like, how do I shut it off? And it was just all I could think of, like, oh my God, you got to go. Like, love you, see you, like, leave. And I felt bad because I don't want to tell grandma, like, get the hell out. But but quite literally, as soon as I said that, boom, just like a snap, everything went back to normal. Yeah. And where all, the temperature went back to room, normal temperature. There was no more weight on me. And I'm sitting up in bed, completely awake, out of breath, completely covered in sweat, trying to self-analyze myself, going, am I having a psychosis moment? And what's going on? What just happened? Yeah. And even though, really for me, and the reason that I share that story is that was what I call my spiritual awakening. That was the come to Jesus moment because anytime I had a spiritual experience, that I go, I think that's BS. And it was like my grandma was sitting on my shoulder going, Dean, do you remember that time that I came and visited you? And be like, yeah, can't. Like, it wouldn't matter if the world's biggest skeptic came or cynic, I can't deny what I experienced. Yeah. And she, and she never, it was never a threaten. It was always a very loving, how about you just stay open? Saying, if you can't explain, now I can. I know that was her coming to, waken me, if you will. But if it was something that I needed so visceral to say, go back to that starting point of that experience you had. Saying, okay, if you had that experience, why can't, you be, just be a little open. And every time I did that, it was like, you think of a flower, right? And my mind became more open to possibilities. And I was really shown a lot of really cool stuff. And I was like, whoa, I got to experience or feel or see different things. And it was like, whoa, like that was really cool. Like to bear witness of whether you call it a miracle or just, be in the presence of something that is just totally, mind blowing. And so really I went back to that voodoo chick, right? Because she was my point of reference. And I was like, what's going on? I want to try to figure this out. And oh, by the way, the whole time this is going on, I was still serving full time with the Army National Guard. So it was truly, and when I stepped in my abilities as a medium, truly it was Dean the, soldier by day and Dean the medium by night. I know that sounds like a new Marvel comic, but honestly, it was crazy because I was trying to, here I am, a dad, a husband, have a home life, and now have this unfolding thing that it's like waking up and finding you have an extra thumb. Like, what do you do with it? Like, oh my God, like, and then trying to, deal also with worried about, at the time, I was very secretive because I was worried what the military, my superiors and coworkers, because I supervised quite a few folks, would think or say about it. And I knew that I was in my last 3 years of service before I retired. And it was kind of like, pulling levers, if you will, like, okay, I'm on duty now. I don't, and I would it started kind of coming out in very select groups of people, like, that were very close to me. And so it was a very slow coming out of the metaphysical closet was very slow. And, really stepping out in the public eye, it can be very scary. And so I can, really sympathize with anybody that may be in their own closet currently and being like, I'm worried about being judged. Like it's not always accepted, right? It's just like if, somebody says I'm a certain denomination or, I have a certain belief and they're worried about what other people. And then really, quite honestly, I started getting older and I really didn't stop caring what other people thought. And I was like, what, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, what the hell with it, and just like, the cards are in, I'm already past my eyeballs in this, like I might as well go all in. And really when I retired, I had been planning to work for the VA full time. Sure. You think retiring at this point, when I retired from the Guard, that was 24 years that I had served. And here I was in my early 40s, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, I could go on to work another, several years. The kids are very young yet and work for the VA or something military related and carry over that military retirement. And, I think God, the universe, the angels were like, I don't think so. You'll be serving in a different way, but not like that. And it was very natural, though, quite honestly, to when I finally did make the decision to, embrace being a medium and doing that full time. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. Like, who does, and it's like, wow. And really it was, kind of exploring and being opened up to what I call the holistic community in the city here. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, wow, there's a whole other circle over here. So it was really kind of interesting.
So how was that, for you initially when you first came out and started doing that publicly? I mean, what was that like for you?
Oh, it was scarier than hell. And so I got to share is so how it was baby steps really. And so, as when that voodoo chick, when the local psychic told me, Dean, you're a medium. And I was like, you're full of, what? And she goes, what? And she goes, what? I probably am, but that doesn't change the fact that you're a medium. And so I really went on, I was like, well, what does that mean for me? Like, I think Teresa Caputo was just coming out on TV. Sure. I was like, what, it's not, and I was like, I see all these TV shows, and I was consuming it because I was like, what is, I understand what the term means and the communication aspect, but what does it mean for Dean McMurry? Not James Van Praagh or Teresa Caputo or whomever, right? So, and nothing against them, but I was like, my path does not look like theirs. And, or maybe it does. I don't know at that point. Mm-hmm. And so I really went on a soul searching aspect of what does being a medium mean for me? What does that look like? And the other aspect is I knew that stepping into it in a business aspect meant that I had to come out of the closet. And as you shared, Paige, is that, when I came out, first off, I was really worried about my wife. Always has been and always will be my number one supporter. But truly, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be doing this full time. I really wouldn't. There's been so many times that I was like, no, I'm done. Where I felt that I was done, right? And it was more about soul searching and where I was, but really just coming back of being my cheerleader. So I got to give her props first and foremost, right? Her and my kids, and then my parents. My dad's in spirit now, but when he was living, and then my mom was always. A supporter from day one, because I was really kind of nervous, and I was like, and she was like, oh, that totally makes sense. And I was like, what do you mean? Like day one? I was like, what? And she was like, oh yeah, you used to have invisible friends. And like, and I was like, where is this? And she said, well, we just, I don't know. Sometimes you just chalk it up as, whatever. But my mom is extremely, extremely intuitive. And since I've really found, which is really kind of funny, when I kind of stepped out and said, hey, I'm a medium, and really let everybody know, it was interesting. Like, I found out that my sister is clairaudient, my oldest sister. What that means is she can hear spirits. She was like, where she totally can hear just talking, like spirits talking all the time. My other sister, is very devout in her faith, but also very, very spiritual as well, like in the aspect of, spirit and God and everything else as well. So and my brother, I don't know, he's kind of a different kind. We love him as well, but, it's interesting. They've all been super supportive, and I'm very grateful to that. Mm-hmm. But there has been people that I have, for example, when I first came out, this is kind of a funny story. When I first put out my, I got to do social media. I came out with a business Facebook page, I think it was. And there was a lady that occasionally would come and kind of clean the house or something. And she was very devout in her faith. And she saw this page. And it was, a big long sent me a message about, I'll pray for you and everything else. And it wasn't about, I wasn't angry. We still love her, love everything she does. And I was like, what? Thank you for praying for me. It was just like, I'm not going to try to change the way that, you believe or what you do. You do you and I'll do me, and so yeah, sometimes, but sometimes people were very, I'll pray for you, and other times people were super excited, but it was all baby steps. I guess getting back to Paige, your thing, and it really started off word of mouth, and I started giving readings for family and friends, and next thing you know, I started getting calls. And I was like, who is this? And back before, spam was a big thing. Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh, you don't know me, but I'm a friend of a friend, right? And so and I was like, I need to get on this. Like, everybody's like calling. So I actually had to buy a scheduling book so I could start scheduling readings like between military duties and family functions. And I was like, well, I have a little window on Saturday, like in the evening. And so we would go into the basement and, and I had a little area set up and, and even when we moved from Castleton, because that's where we previously lived, and we moved here to Fargo, the first readings that I did, the rest of the house, actually, believe it or not, the first space that we kind of painted and cleaned up was the garage. And the rest of the house we were kind of working on. So I started giving readings in the garage when we first, and it was kind of getting fall. And I was like, oh man, we need to get on this. And, and then of course we changed business models long time ago, way pre-COVID, many years before pre-COVID, and started doing only online readings, and then by special, like family like where I'd go and do like special events or whatever. But yeah, so as far as like just bringing everybody into the home to do it, we made the choice to do it more virtually, and then kind of do it by special event as well. So whether it's, kind of evolved into whether I'm brought into casinos or hospice units or, garages to do other family functions or fire halls or wherever. So yeah.
That's so cool.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. First off, I just have to say this because I don't want to overlook this, but thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
What you were doing prior to entering this endeavor, which is so cool. But when you did, get into kind of utilizing this, gift that you have,
right?
Were there times that you didn't know how to use it or didn't know how to maybe analyze it right? And how did you navigate that with now having clients and people who were kind of, in a sense, paying for your service?
So in the beginning, after I took a course in mediumship, I took a 4-week course in mediumship. And one of the things that was suggested, and the same thing I do to my students now, is saying that I recommend is to go and practice as much as you can. And so really I chose to take a year and so 12 full months and just give readings, not charge, because I felt that I was a student in training, right? And then after a while people started offering, but in the beginning, what would happen a lot of times is it was like almost, you think of like a fire hydrant, right? And it was like the information would like explode. Like it would almost be hard for me to keep up, like, hey, I'm getting this, and just information was just flowing so strong, and then it would dry up. And that's where the aspect of taking a course in mediumship was, because I learned different techniques of saying, okay, if you have all this information flowing to you, and then for some reason, it seemingly stops, how do you get back to the reading? Because if somebody pays for a session, if you get in that agreement, saying, well, sorry, what do you do? And saying, but at the same time is learning on how to redirect the energy. And that's what it was all about. Because in the ego says that, oh my God, I can't disappoint them. And understandably, no, do I ever want to disappoint? No, of course we don't. But at the same time is we don't focus on that. And then so where there's techniques of visualization where you can basically energetically remove yourself from the reading in a sense and re-enter it from a different angle. And then kind of get a fresh perspective and saying, oh, because, and sometimes are there still, we'll call them challenges sometimes, sometimes, but I've learned over the years to rely on other senses. So whether it's taste, touch, feel, so our physical senses, we have the same senses in the psychic realm, right? The energetic realm. And to rely upon those, as well as my ability to communicate back and forth, to augment the readings. So, sometimes if something is a little bit hard to decipher or is getting quiet for some reason, I just kind of shift things around a little bit energetically and saying, okay, well, we're just going to move along here. And yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah. No, it definitely does. Yeah.
And obviously you've done this for a number of years. So I'm just really curious on what has been one of the most impactful readings that you've done for one of your clients.
Right. I would have to say, there's been so many impactful, like really like touch your heart readings. I've had so many parents that have lost children. I've had, people pass from all kinds of stuff. And, I think one of the things that pulls at everybody's heartstrings more than others are when children pass, and not saying that, somebody's losing their mom or dad or sibling or whomever or loved one is any less, but so those have been challenging. I will say one specific one. I was just trying to think of one. I was contacted by a lady a number of years ago, and she asked if I would come on site to do a reading. And at that time, I was like, sure. Where are we going? And it was in town here, and it was actually like a senior care hospital. It was more of a hospice unit. And long story short, what it was her husband was dying of a brain tumor. He was still very conscious. He was not verbal. But what she wanted was to get validation for him that when it came time for him to cross over, that everything was going to be okay. And of course, give the family some sense of reassurance, if you will. And of course, all the children were there. She was there. And she told me afterwards, she's an older lady. She's really neat. And she ended up becoming a student later on down the road, and actually a really good friend. So older lady, and she's just the neatest person. And she goes, Dean, she goes, when I contacted you, she was like, I was a skeptic. She said, I did not know, right? And her husband was a very decorated Army veteran. And, so the military connection was there. But I just went in and I had never done that setting before. And I was like, good. But I was like, what? It's not, the readings are not about me, and it never is. And once I remove myself from the equation and just think of it, I'm just a vessel, right? I'm here just to provide a service and to not, get in my head and think about it like, oh my God, and just saying, I'm here to provide a reading or readings, and provided the reading, and it was exactly what they were looking for. And and then after, it wasn't long after, I think I got notification from her that he crossed over. It was known that he was passing. And so we did another reading because of course she wanted to make connection and everything else. But that one, not just because he was a veteran, but I think it was just because the aspect of the energy, the energy that they carried. For some reason, it really touched me. There's been some others that afterwards, there was a lady I still remember. Her dad came through in the reading, and they had a hard relationship prior. And they hadn't been talking. And one of the biggest things that he told her was that he was proud of her and that how much he loved her. And it sounds so simple, and when I say it, I almost feel like, really, are you really saying that? Because it just, when it comes out of my mouth, it just sounds blah, but it was like, hey, Dean, removed yourself from this. It's not about you. And of course there was big tears and everything else. And, she just validated that, Dad never, that was something that he never gave accolades. Wow. And he was a hard to please person, and we always bumped heads. And so long story short, what, when I that really touched me, and here she was in her 30s. And I was like, oh my God, it took her that long to hear. And now her dad's passed. Mm-hmm. It took her that long to hear her dad say, I love you and I'm proud of you. And so, my own daughter, I was like, I made it a point of, and here's this young teenager going, I love you, right? Yeah, like I get the eye roll, and I'm proud of you no matter what you do. Okay, Dad. Like, and I was like, and then I told her, I said, okay, I get that, but I said, I gave a lady a reading today that here she was in her 30s, and I don't want you to be in your 30s and never hear it from me. So I think for even as an individual, as a dad, as a parent, as a husband, a lot of times I get just as much out of the reading sometimes as a human being, and going, oh my God, that really touched my heart. And after the reading, then I can go, oh my God. And then, go and hug my kids a little bit tighter, or, go in saying, oh my God, if we think we have it, you certainly did not hear their story. Oh my God. Right. And, the aspect of it, but there has been a lot. I don't know if I could really pick one, I guess, that really touches my heart. That is like, that is the one. Yeah. But that would be one of them. So, yeah. And there's been some other more high profile cases that were very heart-wrenching, and even missing person cases that are just kind of, kind of grab at your guts type deal, and just kind of, so yeah, and I sense stepping into mediumship that opens the doorway to doing a lot of other things. I just don't do mediumship. That really opened the way to helping with a nonprofit for a time to locate missing persons. So whether homicide or missing person cases. So it could be like cold cases or from all around the world. We were working on cases in Japan and different things. So, and it all goes through a central, so psychics and mediums and remote viewers and dowsers and people of a lot of different modalities come together to use their abilities and volunteer their time and energies to try to help find people. And they actually work with law enforcement and cadaver dogs and different missing. So
wow, that is crazy. That is crazy. I've never thought about it in that sense, but I'm sure. Exactly.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, so I have done that. Now I know a lot of mediums personally that they, that's kind of their niche, right? So they, they really focus a lot on, missing persons or homicide cases or, cold cases, different things. That is their jam, right? So they, and which hats off to them. I think that's really, really awesome. I've also been asked to work on some which has been a very interesting question in the past, about people that were adopted and they had questions about their genealogy. It was like they weren't really sure, if this guy was the father. And of course, whether that individual had crossed or it was kind of weird. There was some, there's been some funky, some interesting circumstances sometimes I'm asked to consult on. There's been also some other really fun opportunities with paranormal investigators. We had one that was in Gettysburg, and they remoted me in. So here I am here in Fargo, and we were doing a Zoom, and and they didn't tell me where they were, and they were actually in the home. And that's out there somewhere on YouTube. They were in a home that the first shot was fired by a sniper or something. And I was connecting to the woman that was killed. It was really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was giving, because they wanted the medium's, a medium's feedback, right? And and I think they were on a radio show too. I can't remember the details, but it was really kind of fun. So sometimes I'll do that, like as far as do like a joint investigation as far as being the medium and giving my, connecting with spirit, and then they kind of validate it with the scientific or, whether capturing voices or, and then, doing, like I said, and then of course, as you guys know as well, one of the aspects that I found myself over the years kind of falling into was a niche that I kind of call intuitive real estate consulting. And I have zero background in real estate, but what I did learn was how to douse homes. And if you think of dowsing, which I actually have hanging in front of me, is like these brass L rods. You think of the old school ranchers out there, like looking for water or maybe even oil in some areas. But what we learned in what I did is how to make a home feel better or get rid of spirits or different aspects. And I started playing with it over the years. And I noticed that when I doused a home, it would sell quicker. We started with our own home that we did in Castleton. It was like gone very quickly, right? And so the more clients we started working with that we were dousing their homes, whether in person or remotely, they were selling very quickly. And so it was like, kind of like the light bulb moment saying, well, who works with homes? And so, realtors, right? Or people, for sale by owner. And and it's very kind of interesting, the stuff that comes up. Whether a developer built on like up in Minot, there was a developer that actually built on an old dump. It was cleared by the EPA, but it came up, and I was like, why does it keep on? Nobody wanted to buy it. And there was something about trash, and the guy was like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, it used to be a dump ground. And I was like, and so, so it wasn't long after that it sold finally, but it was interesting. There's crazy stuff out there. And we live in of course, here in the Midwest, we live in a very active area, right? You think about all the rich Native American heritage, early American settlers. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And the other thing is not just the services I provide to realtors and homeowners or custom home builders, but also the families that are being plagued by, spirits that are manifestations in the homes or, possession case. These are very rare occurrences. You don't really get a lot of calls, but, saying, oh my God, I'm being touched, or I'm being, whatever. So some, what people would say, the crazy stuff, right? And so there's a lot of niche areas that, over the years, you just find yourself kind of addressing or stepping into. But it's certainly a blessing to be able to do this each and every day. And I'm completely grateful.
Yeah.
It is so cool.
It's so cool to hear about. I feel like we could listen to you for hours. And I know when you and I had originally connected through Ruth,
Right.
We had talked, and I was telling you a little bit about Cup of Queens and how we really look to empower women and champion women. And you had mentioned a couple things that you had done throughout this career that kind of fell in line with that, which made us so excited to have you as our first male guest on the show.
And I gotta say, I feel ecstatic and completely honored to be the first token male on the show. So
we're excited to open that gate up. But I mean, tell us how you have within your, not even just this, but within all of your career paths, how have you, celebrated and championed women throughout this?
Yeah. That's a great question. Well, first and foremost, I will say that women, which is interestingly, is the 98% of my demographic that I work with.
Really?
It seems like women on the majority. Now, I don't want to put all women in the same box because that just won't work. But women are typically more in touch with their feelings, as far as, being able to sense. And a lot of times, whether they're in touch spiritually or in tune with themselves, they will verbalize that about different, intuitive things without even knowing it, right? Because it just, it's all, just old sayings, right? And so that I would say that first. The second aspect is being able to, connect with great women platforms such as Women Quarterly and Teen Magazine and these different great women organizations, which, it was really crazy how I even, started partnering with these great folks and how they, champion women. And it's like, wow, that's a great way to uphold and uplift women. And, what I would really say is the way that I do it is just really empowering, allowing women to be empowered and help them remember the power that's within them, to help them. Every one of us has a voice, male and female, but remembering that we have a song to sing. And so whatever your voice is, whatever your message is, the hell with what other people think. And just because somebody else is like, if somebody is selling bottled water, get out there and do your thing. Even if it's similar, you're going to present it in a completely different way. And so it's more about empowering. And, when you give somebody power, oh my God, how fun is that to watch them like cast off the chains and like go kick ass and change the world and to see the ripple effects. And that's what it's all about. So whether they're better moms, better, daughters, better, and not only empowering them about their voice, but also I'm a big proponent on, getting in touch with your intuition. Because as a dad of especially a teenage daughter, I think about, and a son that's getting into pretty soon to his teens, I think that I can't always be there as a dad. And the same for any moms that are listening, like we can't always be there. And what is one tool of thinking, like other than teaching my kids to shoot, which, is very controversial, and saying that's a tool. But what is one tool that we always carry with us that we will never, ever forget to bring? That's our intuition. It's part of us. So if you can teach your children, whether, I think about growing up, right? Especially dating. How huge is that? How many times have we all done sketchy stuff? Be like, I probably shouldn't go to that party, or I shouldn't go over to their house. And, in the morning with the hangover, we're like, oh, that was stupid, but hopefully it's something that we can walk away from. Hopefully it's something that is not detrimental to, the rest of our lives. And obviously as any parent, I want my kids to be happy and healthy, regardless of the age. And if they can start reading the energy of a situation, person, or thing, why not?
Yeah.
How they would even have an edge on other people in business, whatever they go and do. And that's, and something else too that I talk to business owners about, like, if you could enhance your ability to read the energy, please, you would have, and that's where a lot of kids are starting to realize, or a lot of young adults are starting to realize, like, hey, I know, if the energy, I know how to read energy, or at least maybe at a certain level. And so I know how to navigate easier than other companies or other people. So, so I guess going back to your original question, how do I, champion women in that aspect of, stepping into that queen energy, that power, stepping into the ruby slippers, the power shoes, if you will. And I think we can all, if we would all channel, even males, if there's any males out watching this, channel the, that divine feminine energy, not only the masculine, but the feminine. And really, it's truly, honestly, it's a feminine energy that's super powerful, and can truly move mountains. So
that was a great answer.
That was good. Yeah,
Loved that.
I loved it. That was so good.
We're gonna be posting that one on. So
that's the video. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, cut that up in segments.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah. Oh, funny. So tell us how people can find you and connect with you, or even schedule an appointment.
Absolutely. So you can find me on just about every platform. I'm not really too active on Twitter, but you just look for the Military Medium on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all that. And if you want to check out my website, you can do that at deanmcmurray.com, themilitarymedium.com. Just look for the Military Medium. Just put it in Google. It'll take you right there. I'm the only website out there, the Military Medium. So check it out. And a lot of other things in there as well. But and I was going to share, if you follow on social media, every Monday I kick out what's called Monday Messages from Spirit. And basically the aspect of that is to kind of tune in, if you will, I put out my feelers and just listen to Spirit and saying, hey, give me the messages. And it's usually about 3 paragraphs of information that needs to be spoken to the masses. And then one, usually the last 4th paragraph is usually something about an ailment or a channeled healing or energy that needs to be sent. So it's something that I've been guided to do for a lot of years. I've been doing that now it's evolved, but and that's something I've been doing. But yeah, and there's a few specials that I'm also running currently. And we also have an in-person 2-day live in-person event coming up the end of March here in Fargo at the Clubhouse Suite. So that's with my wife and I. That's called MC Squared, kind of a play on McMurray, right? So ×2. And it's 1 full day is all intuition development. We're going to get down and dirty with intuition, a full day of that. And then the other day is all going to be about personal development and empowerment, and then how you can use the 2 in business and life. And then there's a couple options for tickets, but one with the VIP tickets. My wife and I are gonna take the VIP folks out to dinner. So at the Porterhouse Grill, right next door. So so we're gonna go there. But
nice. That's so cool. So many cool things that you're doing.
Right, few things.
Cannot wait to share this with our listeners and just have the ability to connect you with our awesome audience.
Thank you.
We're going to be really excited about this.
Now, I wish I had the news. It's not official yet, and I can give a little leak of what's coming up. There's some stuff as far as a really fun event coming up in Fargo, hopefully this spring or summer, with another very well-known entertainer, and it's going to be something nobody has ever seen before. I'll just give you that teaser. And then always looking at the aspect of film or TV. So we don't, those irons are always in the fire. So, just keep tabs on what I'm doing. So you never know.
That's amazing.
Everyone needs to
yeah.
follow along. I need to know what the event is.
So cool. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, ladies. It was certainly a pleasure to connect with you guys. And I think your program is awesome. I just love it.
Thank you.
We really appreciate that. And thank you, Dean.
Talk
It
to
was
you
great
soon.
to meet you.
All right.
Bye.
All right, ladies. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.